Autism is a developmental disorder that appears in the first 3 years of a child's life. It affects the brain's normal development skills, social and communication skills. And I feel I should suggest to give a definition of autism. Autism is a severe disorder of the brain function, marked by problems with social contact, intelligence, and language. Together with ritualistic and compulsive behavior and responses to the environment around are often very good signs of autism. On this slide, you'll see that autism affects boys 3 to 4 times more than girls. It has been shown that a family's education, income, lifestyles are not proven facts which would cause autism. And there is no really exact number of children who are affected by autism. Some of the early signs: delayed lack of speech, repetitive body movements, impaired social skills, really no activity or play, and very little eye contact. Autism, brain disorder that affects the way the brain uses information sent to it and the way that it transmits the information it receives. Also, some studies have found that the abnormalities in many parts of the brain have almost always occurred during the time of fetal development. The problem may be centered in the parts of the brain responsible for processing language and information from your senses. So on this diagram to our right here, it shows what part of the brain is affected and how it does affect the child's autism and the way of learning, balance, communication skills, many, many other things. On this slide here, you'll see that there's related developmental disorders, some like autism. But I'd like to point out that autism appears to have a strong genetic base. Twins that are identical are more likely to be both affected by autism than twins that are fraternal. In a family who has one autistic child, the chances of having another autistic child is about 1 in 20. Much more greater than the population of families who do not have an autistic child. In some cases, there are relatives of an autistic child who may display mild behaviors that are very similar to an autistic individual in the family, such as repetitive behaviors and social or communication problems. Problems of an emotional nature, such as a manic depressant, occur much often in families of an individual with autism. This chart here shows outcomes of a child with or without. Infectious diseases, greatly higher. Neurologic disorders, off the chart. Mental and health conditions, as you see, are real unbelievable. The metabolic dysfunction, not so bad. The immune system is really affected. You get congenital and genetic disorders, gastrointestinal problems, prone to injuries, traumas, burns, poisons, and even environmental conditions can also really affect a child. Here's some of the symptoms. They don't really play with any other children. They won't really talk to you, are very broken language. There's a lot of, sometimes regression begins after they're already 1 or 2, which would really be a shock to some people that had a normal child at the beginning. Some autistic children don't like the light, don't like loud noises, don't like to be touched, don't like smells. Very unpredictable. And usually, which is a bad, sad thing, is that a lot of help is not sought out because of somebody's denial, embarrassment, or not really want to admit that their child has problems. Here's an example of behavior and play with an autistic child. Most times they misbehave. I mean, no following orders, no following rules. Don't want to listen to anybody. Really short attention span. They lose interest in a toy or a game they're playing in. And if they find something they like, it's continuous over and over again. It could be a show. It could be a time of a day. It could be a certain activity. No matter if they're in that zone, sometimes they'll even urinate or defecate on themselves. Now, playing, most of the time they will play alone. And they don't have any pretend friends, and they don't play games with, a buddy that's not there. On this slide here, it shows many of the disorder problems. Some are slight, some are very unbelievable. But I have seen very gifted children also. Very good artists, memory, mathematics skills. It all depends on the child and the individual qualities of their needs sometimes, or how bad the autism has affected them. There's links between the 5 genes that will interact in some way to cause this condition. A faulty gene, or genes that make up a person's vulnerability to a development of autism, is presence of other factors such as a chemical imbalance, viruses or chemicals, or lack of oxygen at birth. On this slide here are some of the medications that are used to treat this. There is no single treatment that has yet often proved effective for a lot of major features of autism. There's a variety of drugs that control self-injuries, aggressive, and other hard-to-control behaviors. There's also drugs that control epilepsy, which will affix 20% of autism children. 20% of autistic children have epilepsy. There is a very wide range of variety of drugs that can be used, but I feel sometimes trying to work with a child might help out, but in other cases, Prozac, Valium, Xanax, many other, even lithium at times for really bad children. Aggressive behavior, attention problems, being hyper, irritable, mood swings, and so forth. Below here are some treatments that that can be prepared by a provider. This treatment here could be a mega vitamin therapy. Studies have shown that vitamin B6 improves eye contact and speech, and this vitamin also treats tantrum behaviors. It causes less side effects than other medications and is considered safe when used appropriately by an individual. However, many health professionals advocate its use in treatment of autism, citing the studies showing the benefits were flawed. This slide here shows some studies for diet. Autistic children react well to gluten-free foods. Gluten is found in foods that have rye, wheat, and barley. There's also in health food stores a compound called DMG that's legally classified as a food, not as a vitamin or a drug. Some researchers say that it improves the speech in autistic children. Those who respond to the treatment will usually do so within a week of starting the treatment. Again, many doctors do not feel that the studies are adequate to advocate for this treatment. So in conclusion to this assignment, it has taught me a lot about autism and the different aspects of this disorder. I don't think we'll ever really understand autism and how life would really be with this disorder. I feel I have a great and new understanding and respect for the individuals affected by this disorder and the individuals that help these children and adults with autism. I don't believe that we'll ever really understand how to control it, but sometimes maybe help prevent it will be the next research study that they can come up with.